Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we will start with that team building roll call.
Should we wait for Jill? Oh, Jill is here.
Somebody else is going to get called on first.
So what are we doing? Talking about the dumbest thing we did in the last week?
No, go ahead, Angel.
We'll save that one for next meeting.
Okay. Then it won't be, I won't have to tell.
All right. So find something like, is Dave not in? Or are they excited? You're wearing
Jill
or
was in and out.
something you have with you to describe why you're on the school board. You want me to go first?
Sure.
Mine's kind of easy. So I have a Boys and Girls Club mug. So much like the Boys and Girls Club, one reason I'm on the school board is to make sure that we are serving all students and meeting them where they're at academically and building them up to empower them to, you know, even academically, sports, in life, and everything like that.
Okay. Mary Kay, you're doing the roll call.
Okay.
So I'm here.
Candy Mary.
Okay, I have this red shirt on, and could represent my business, strawberry business. But part of the reason I'm on the school board is because schools are so important to our community, and there's so many businesses that depend on the education that we're giving kids. And I'll go ahead and call it there.
Dr. Dave Bardo.
Well, I'm wearing Anago. I used to have an Anago football top back when my stepson was playing. That one kind of went to Goodwill at some point. The reason I ran is because I have two of my grandsons who live in this district and will be coming through. And I thought because of my previous experience as a superintendent for 20 years, I thought I had something to offer. So that's why I ran.
Dr. Noel Deep.
Good evening. Well, I guess I'm wearing the maroon too, not just maroon Mondays, but you know, I'm on the school board because I believe in the power of education and the priorities that we got to place on there for our children so that it betters their future. Every kid that gets educated, every kid that stays out of trouble, goes out, becomes a productive member of society is going to contribute to this community, and we desperately need that. We have had board members who have done a great job, and when it was time for somebody else to step up, I decided to do so.
Jill Maddock Nelson.
Great question. Okay, so I guess what comes to mind is my wedding band because I think of my family and my children, and family is really important to me. So I ran for the school board as a parent, but I also am from Anago, so my family has our roots here, and Anago is really, I care a lot about our community. So that would be the other motivator for me.
Mary Neufeld.
Okay, everything everybody else said.
Come on, you can't do that.
All right, the one that I don't have on Red Robin stuff. I looked through my phone, I've got tons of pictures of kids.
There you go.
They're not mine, but they're kids. I got on the school board, I filled a vacancy, and I felt that I had time, after having worked 29 of my 35 years in the district, and I wanted to be able to give back to the kids, and having done the job of a teacher, I thought I could bring a different perspective to the board. Okay.
J.D. Schrader.
If I would have been one more minute late, I might miss this.
No,
Well,
we had to do
so
it
you have to
anyway.
use something like a keychain, something on your phone, you're
Something you're
wearing to
wearing.
describe why you are on the school board.
What about my food? I wanted kids to be able to get really good jobs and so they could eat good. I wanted to get on the school board. I just remembered reading books about how the Chinese kids studied so hard. And then you read about how the rise of robotics is coming. And so you thought, wow, how are we going to make kids nowadays more competitive? And it's a weird thing. So it's hard to be more competitive because then you get stressed out, you work more and you study more. And some places in the state are already super competitive. And it's a real, my brother told me where his kids are going to school, they're only 6. You got to get a 30 to get into Madison on your ACT at least, and so it's easier in that sense to go to Antigo. So I would like to think that we'll give our kids as good of his education as he's going to get in some fancy suburb in Chicago, but still way harder, to get into school from there. So it's,
When Jill mentioned, your roots are here, your family's here, and when you look around this group, just this group up here, 7 of us are from here. And we're back here serving the kids of the district. And I think that says a lot. But we like having outsiders.
I'm one too.
Not anymore.
That's what, you two in the maroon.
The two in the maroon are the outsiders.
We're trying hard to fit in.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
It's a
thank
start.
you for doing that, Angel, and
Yes.
I look forward to the next
We'll have some
question.
fun ones next time.
that was good. Made me feel embarrassed. So.
Okay.
Well, you were late, so that's.
We're going to go on to citizens and delegations.
I know, I'm just kidding.
No. Okay, and then we will go on to the consent agenda.
I move the board approve the minutes from the May 25th, 2021 Board of Education meeting, financial report for May 2021, consideration of current bill, check number 4781 through 4875 in the amount of $229,934.78, ACH numbers 202100903 through 202101067 in the amount of $902,437.10, and one wire transfer in the amount of $10,149.49 for a total of $1,142,521.37.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Andy, if I could make just one comment. We also will be doing this month, because it's year end, we do an AP run on June 30th, and I'll be bringing that forward in July, but we're going to pay all the bills we can in June prior to the end of the year.
Mhm.
And that's just a standard practice that we've done before.
Okay. And we'll do a roll call on that, Mary Kay.
Bartle,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. And we'll go on to new business and approve the committee of the whole minutes. Richard Nate.
I move the board approve the committee of the whole minutes from June 8th, 2021.
I'll second it.
Any questions or comments on those minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. And we'll go on to item B, district coaches and co-curricular staff.
Dr. Bardo brought to my attention a question about our practice in not bringing forward for approval every district coach or advisor. And I knew we had not done that during my 3-year tenure, so I went prior to those 3 years to check, and we hadn't then either. So then I checked policy to make sure that we were acting accordingly, and we are. So I listed policy 3120.08 in there for you, and then also included at his, Dr. Bardo's suggestion, I would love to say a current list of coaches and advisors, but it's already outdated. And perhaps that is part of the rationale for not, these positions unfortunately turn over often. But I did include from 2021 all advising and coaching positions there for your perusal and to ask at this time if you have any questions.
For the record, the reason I brought it forward is I saw a hire of a coach in the paper, which I knew nothing about. And so I had two questions that I put forward to Julie. One was, do coaches receive taxpayer money? And they do, and we're responsible as the board for that. So I thought coaches should be approved at board level. And the other thing that was in my mind was we had just had an executive session about a coach where we were asked to fire a coach that technically the board hadn't hired. That was my two issues and why I asked to meet with Julie. It was a concern.
And the policy attached does include the termination. That is still within the purview of the board.
So I didn't read this policy, and I don't know if everybody else has, but this is saying that it's up to the administrator is in charge of hiring, but we have the ability to terminate.
Are you saying that you'd like to be notified every time they hire a new one? Because they get like $1,000 or something, right? It's a small amount of taxpayer money compared to.
I just had questions.
Yeah.
And I did talk to Tom Schofield. I think especially for varsity positions, you shouldn't be reading about it in the paper. That could have come from us prior to that announcement. But
And I had no problem with the person that was
Sure,
hired.
I understand.
It was simply,
But like
I
a
read it in the paper and I thought as a board member I should have known.
yeah, a 7th grade basketball position, then we probably wouldn't.
But head football, head basketball,
Right.
boys and girls, those.
So
things,
in
yeah,
the
we should
future,
know.
you will notify us before that goes to the paper. Okay?
Thank you.
That's our intention, you bet.
Okay. Policy manual
So
review.
if that's the case, Andy, is it the assumption that we have to put this in the beginning of the school year, then how are we? Is this on the information, or is it up to the superintendent to hire, or are we saying that the board has to approve the hires? Is this brought to
No.
us as informational?
This is brought to us as information.
Correct.
So going forward, you don't need us to approve everything?
Not for coaches or advisors. I'd like to continue the current practice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you just want to be notified on a more timely basis.
That would help.
Okay, that's perfect sense. Item C, policy manual review, the 2000s.
I did find one. I'd
Okay.
like to, actually, Mary Kay, I did it again. Mary Kay found it and I endorsed that under the administrative guidelines, AG 2432, we will recommend omission, just to remove it altogether because it has to do with the district-based driver's education program, which we do not have.
Good reading.
I think we've been through the 2000s once before.
Yes.
I can't remember if there were some things that people had asked be changed or reworded.
If they did, we would have done that already. And so that was the only one that
But it hasn't come back to us for approval.
administrative guidelines wouldn't. You'd
Oh,
just
okay.
be notified.
All right, okay. Okay, very good. Anything else on the 2000s here? Is everybody good going ahead with this, doing one set a month? We did the 2000s not so long ago, and I'll confess that I haven't reread them again this month, because summer is, but I'm sure every month is busy for somebody.
I do like the timeline, the deadline to have them read and reviewed, so.
Okay, so we'll continue on what I'm on. We'll go on to board action items, consideration to approve 2021-2022 preliminary budget proposal.
I move the board approve the 2021-2022 preliminary budget as proposed.
Second.
Tim?
Yeah,
comments?
so the first document I'd like you to open up is the budget status report that I put together. And that's really going to be the basis going forward as I really work on getting the details together with for the budget hearing in August. So on the top of it, I've looked at the revenues and where I think our revenues are going to be. The items highlighted in that canary color or whatever that is are things that you haven't seen yet, we haven't discussed. So essentially, by prepaying the Fund 38 debt, we're saving $19,000 on some interest payments for next year. And then you can see the additional expenditures. I've included in this draft of the budget 3% increase for administration, teachers to move on the salary schedule, a 3% on the support staff, and then our health insurance increase that we've seen, and then utilities. And then I've moved some FTE, proposed FTE to the stimulus money. And then on the reductions there, what I've done at this time is we had a reduction of a math teacher and 4K as well as an aide position. And this staffing right now is very, very fluid, so it's just one moment in time. Talking with Anita and Clint, we figured out the master schedule and what we're needed for overloads. Tonight, we're going to be asking you about tech ed math. That requires an overload for one of the math teachers. That figure has been adjusted since the last time we've talked about it. I think going on further down, you can look at what I've done, and I told you I was going to recommend that we did this. This assumes no new revenue. And under that assumption, we're using one of the big areas that we're going to be trimming would be the remodeling budget. Last year's budget included $300,000 for major remodeling projects. I'm suggesting that we reduce that to balance the budget right now by $174,000. And then I'm anticipating that we would sweep funds, any unexpended funds from this year's budget into Fund 46 to capture that aid. And at this moment in time, it's really a guess and by gosh. We have a payroll yet to run on Friday. I have no way of knowing what's going to hit me with summer school expenses until after we run the payrolls on the 30th and the payroll this Friday. And I'm guessing that's going to be somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 that we're sweeping to that account. In addition to that, Jake had gotten approval to resurface the track. And we were using remodeling money and unexpended student travel money for co-curriculars to fund that project. That project isn't going to get started until the middle of July. So that sweep is going to be in addition $160,000. So we're probably in the neighborhood of $460,000 or better. But the intent is to take all general fund money and put it there. And then finally, we've got a little bit of reduction with utility savings, $10,000 savings by utilities we're spending on Mattoon, as well as we are now going to be hosting our telephone system, and we're going to be reducing that expenditure by about $36,000 a year. So that's what you see there. So that's the basis of the budget. The other note on the bottom of that is if you look at that, just to be clear, you're going to see the general fund look like we're increasing by a significant amount of money, and we are. We're taking the ESSER II funds, and we're taking, that's a expenditure that we can spend over a 2-year period. We're taking 1/2 of those funds and using them next year. ESSER 3, we can spend over 3 years, so we're taking 1/3 of those funds and applying those to the budget. And then in addition to that, we're going to have a little bit of carryover from ESSER 1, or GEAR, I'm sorry, GEAR.
Just 2 questions, Tim. Fund 46 is getting swept in there. We can pull it right back out if we want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
No time limit on how long that money needs to be in there now.
Correct.
And then my other question is, how are we eliminating a math teacher? Why?
At the 8th grade level, we had 2-hour blocks of math, which was consistent with our middle school scheduling. And then when we shifted it to our 8th graders at the high school, we continued that with the intention that there would be a technology portion being taught, and that hasn't followed through. So this year, to alleviate some of the scheduling conflicts, we moved back to 1-hour classes of math, which is consistent with what's offered at the high school at the other levels. So that only requires 1 teacher.
Okay. And we had 2 math teachers resign or retire? Is that correct?
1 retired and 1, yeah.
And have we filled the one yet?
I am unsure of the current status.
We have 2 math teachers to hire.
To hire, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 1 math teacher for sure to hire, yeah. We'll say that.
Okay.
So the next budget, next item I'd like to have you look at is the preliminary budget. And the real reason I'm asking for your approval is because we have salaries that are going to start coming out in July. And I'd like the board to be able to at least approve a budget so we can continue to pay our 12-month employees. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this because everything is so fluid right now. I'll just highlight a couple of items. So when we look at fund balance, we're going to spend all of Fund 10 funds. But within the Fund 10, we have title funds and we have grant funds that are included. Because of COVID, there were just a lot of activities that we didn't do this year. And so in particular, our AGR funds, and we've talked to you about how we're going to change staffing levels next year. We're going to be carrying over a significant amount of AGR funds. So when you look at that fund balance, the beginning balance and ending balance, we're going to, we will spend all of our revenue limit funds, but some of the grant funds, they are going to carry over again for another year. It has no impact on our aid formula. It's just a fact that that's what's going to happen. So I'm tentatively at this point saying our starting fund balance this year will be what we ended at last year, in a sense. When we look at Fund 21 doesn't, this is a combined 21 and 27. 27 can't carry a fund balance, so all the fund balance is in Fund 21, which is donations. And the biggest change from last year, or this year to next year, is the Navoken project's done. So that was what we had on July 1st for the Navoken project last year. Those funds will be all gone. And then we have a whole bunch of little donations and things in there that we will be spending down. The change in Fund 38, you can see that there. We're going to be making our last payment this year, so at the end of the year, we will not have a Fund 38 fund balance. Then when we get into Fund 46, I will chew this up as soon as we know what that number is. Right now, I'm just showing you that we're going to make a deposit into that fund of 160, and we're going to pull it right back out. And then under Fund 50, Sarah hasn't finished claiming, and we also run summer school where we get reimbursed for summer school lunches. So I don't know where that fund is going to end up yet. But we're carrying too large of a fund balance under DPI policy. Sarah's going to be required to spend down fund balance. And I've asked her to look at maybe offering more fresh fruit and more fresh vegetables with other maybe upscale options to also increase participation in the program, but that's gonna cost us more. And then she has some equipment needs. So that budget's still pretty fluid. And then finally, excuse me, down in, on the bottom there, we're not doing anything different in Fund 80, but we received $185,000 in donations this last year. And Mary is working on a project for looking at our sand filter and replacing the sand filter. The circulation pumps are 15, 16 years old, and we're going to use those funds. They're targeted for that specific project, and we're showing that right now in that fund. Then finally, what I wanted to point out is this is revised from when you saw it last. I posted it on Friday. And I've highlighted on the bottom there where it's a preliminary estimate of the tax levy. And at this time of the year, I really, really hate publishing anything because it's so much is fluid. Andy called me, I think it was earlier this week, and he said, Tim, what's the impact of joint finance? And I said, well, if joint finance is going to pass that money through to the aid formula, the revenue limit's real simple. It's local levy, local taxes, and state aids equal our revenue limit. So if they're going to pass that aid on, taxes are likely to go down. And that's the answer I gave them. Taxes are going to go down. And I left it at that. We posted this document. I got to thinking. When I looked at this, I worked on the aid part of it back in the middle of May. And the only assumption I had at the time that I looked at it was the governor's proposal. So what I'd like you to do is, some of the board members have seen this document. Let's go ahead and pull out that plot diagram of the aid formula. And what I did today is I reran the calculations. So if yours is open and up crooked, there's a little rotating button there that you can hit it a couple times and get it squared away so the print is upright. So essentially the way the aid formula works is we have 3 boxes. And within the boxes, it's your proportion. So we're looking at on the bottom of the graph, there is a district per, what do they call it? Per value per member. And all that's really saying is it's your equalized value divided by your enrollment. And you're comparing where you are to the guaranteed value, which is the bar on the right of the box. And what proportion are you? So when you look at, if we look at secondary aid, if we're estimating that, let's just call it $500,000, and under Ever's proposal, the number is $1,500,000, we're going to get 2/3 aid almost exactly. But under joint finance, they're not going to move that bar to the right as far as Ever's proposal. They're also not going to raise the level of the box. So we're not going to have as much of our spending captured in secondary aid. So the bottom line is they're putting less money into the aid formula than the governor proposed. So I revised the impact to reflect more accurately on what's going to happen on our taxes. And in our case, based on the information I have today, I had to revise it. You can see the taxes are still going down, but because there's not as much money being put into the aid formula as what the governor proposed, taxes will not go down as much.
What percentage did you have there under the governor's plan?
I was working through our forecast model. In each box, we had calculations for the ceiling and the guarantee. And so today I had to go in and change those values and rerun the formula.
Okay.
So we had the governor's budget, which was a lot of money. And then we had the original joint finance plan, but then it wasn't enough to get their federal funds, and we got more tax revenue at the state, so then they gave a little more. So this is reflecting the little more?
Correct. Correct. And again, at this point, it's just a budget. You know, the numbers that we don't know, I have Anago's estimate of shared cost. We haven't finished the year. We haven't got, you know, we're not gonna get to know our shared cost until really October. We don't get to know the Anago's district value per member until October. The shared cost is the 15th of October. So all of this stuff is just conjecture at this point.
So you were happy in this case that the money went into the, under the revenue limit and not different?
The original
category?
document I posted on Friday, the aid estimate was based on the governor's proposal, which is going to be incorrect. So I wanted to correct it so you'd have as accurate information as we have at this point.
But, I mean, in general though, you were still happy that additional money from the legislature was not per pupil. Instead it went under the revenue formula.
Yes.
And Tim, at an earlier meeting, you projected that we'll be $2 million short in 2 years, I believe.
So Andy, what's going to happen, the reality of what's going to happen, we're going to use the governor's, or the stimulus money to our advantage.
Yeah, it's 1.6. So my question was going to be, are we only going to be about 0.4 million short?
Yeah, and a lot of it's, I don't know that I want to answer that, but I think the point being, we're going to shift costs where we can shift costs, because we have to.
So it was sort of a true statement. We got so much stimulus money that it helps with our budget in the next couple of years, not just.
I think, I'll let you guys decide that. The point of the stimulus was to mitigate the impact of COVID. What we're seeing is happening is we will be spending some of that operationally. Is that, I mean, that's for you guys to decide the value.
It's still taxpayer dollars one way or the other, so it's not like a.
Yep.
So Tim, on the previous one, you had the levy is possibly minus 4.13%. On the previous slide,
Yes.
down in when you had all the money there. So in this one that we're looking at now, where do you see it? With the two, you know, with the two options, and we know that they'll meet somewhere in the middle probably.
Okay. Dave, to answer your question, if you would, I'm glad Mary Kay took it down.
Okay.
We had, in that number, it was closer to 90% reduction.
Yeah, I saw
Because
that one
was-
first.
That was, yeah. So this is
4.13 is the new.
the new number
Okay.
based on a lot of assumptions.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yep.
Okay, good. I just wondered about that. Okay. Is that it for you?
Yep, that's all I got.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? And we already have a motion and a second, so we'll go ahead with the roll call vote.
Deep,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes. We'll go on to item B, consideration to approve the 2021-2022 support staff wage schedule.
I move the board approve the 2021-2022 support staff wage schedule, which includes an increase of 3%.
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments on this? We went over this and we got comparables here. So any questions on that?
I just would like to say that I had asked Julie about this, how the classifications were determined, you know, the 1 through 8. And they were, no, Julie, do I have this right? They were sort of developed back in the union time, in the times where we had support staff union and teacher unions.
In my experience in
Okay.
another district, yes.
So
But then
is-
they're reconsidered annually when they're
Okay,
brought to the board.
so, I don't know, I still just have a problem with number 4 and number 5. And I would like to maybe, I mean, of course, I'm going to vote for their raises, and I like to see where we stand with the other districts in the area, but I just think that the instructional assistants should be somewhere else, higher up. And I don't know who decides that or how that gets decided, but, and I think we had this discussion last year, didn't we, Wayne? Yeah, we talked about this with the, so I just want that to be on the record.
Okay.
May I, Heidi, just add, Heidi was on that same wavelength and really worked with the central office team, and you did approve for special education IAs. They had the most significant jump last time.
Yeah.
Because she agreed with you based on other district comparables.
And I look at these other comparables and I think we're not terribly on the line. So anyway, any other questions or comments?
So you're saying you think we're a lot closer now, Andy, than we were, or
I
just
think
that we're
we're
not that?
closer to other districts, is that the way,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I see it. Not the highest district by any means.
I think what all of us have to keep in mind is when we're looking at these positions, this is just the very starting wage for each one of those positions.
I think our highest paid right now is almost 18, but they've been here.
They've been here, and we'd like, you know, you get we talk about the turnover, and the IA's positions are really, you know, especially in the special needs department, there's a lot of turnover. I think they get burned out, and I never worked in a building that we had a regular education instructional assistant, but that might be a little bit different, but
I can say right now that we've had less and less turnover over the last 3 years in special education, and I think part of it is trying to keep up with their wages, but also work conditions and professional development. So,
and we had very little turnover at West. We had good teachers, you know, that were in charge of those IAs, and I think the whole building worked together, and most of them are still with the district. So,
Okay.
so yeah, should we vote?
Yeah, if there's no further questions or comments, go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Bartle,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes. Well, I lost my page here. What's the next thing on the agenda? Okay, consideration to approve milk bids for the 2021-2022 school year.
I move the board approve the milk bids from Dean Foods of Wisconsin for the 2021-2022 school year.
Okay.
Second.
Any questions or comments? We went over this in the cow meeting.
Oh, boy.
It's a good joke.
Okay, if there's no questions or comments, we'll do a roll call vote.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Bartle,
Yes.
Deep, Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes. And we'll go on to item D, consideration to approve the 2021-2022 handbook updates.
I move the board approve the 21-22 employee handbook updates as presented.
Second.
And I think we went over these too. But any questions or comments here? Then all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes, and we'll go on to consideration to approve Cesa 6 Literacy Center Partnership plans for the 2021-2022 school year.
I move the board approve the 2021-2022 Cesa 6 Literacy Center partnership plans as presented.
I'll second it.
Any questions or comments there? Anything you wanted to comment on, Amy? Or?
No, I think we talked about it last time.
Okay. Then we'll do a roll call.
Schrader,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes. And we'll go on to item F, consideration to approve 2-year physical therapy recommendation.
I move the board approve 2-year school-based physical therapy services from Health in Motion as recommended.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And any questions or comments? We went over this also.
Yeah, quite a big difference in the two prices though is the possibility of going back to Health in Motion to negotiate. There's a $5,000 difference when you look at the price between the two entities.
So I didn't want to do that prior to the bids because I didn't think that would be right to go back and say, well, Aspire said this. So
No, I understand.
at this
But at
point,
this point-
I will talk to him, but I just felt that the other benefits that we're getting from Health in Motion at this point outweighed the cost factor. That was my opinion.
So you think the other benefits are worth the additional $5,000?
Yeah, I do, at this time. And they also agreed that if Brittany Skarlupka leaves after 1 year, that we'll reopen it, because part of the reason that I went with them is because of her.
Because of the report she has and her interactions with staff and collaborations
Yeah, and
with
her-
staff and
And,
students.
and families and students, and this was her first year, and she's done a fabulous job, so. That's why.
Wouldn't that be part of the role, regardless of the provider?
It would be,
Okay.
you would hope, but they, when talking with Eric with regards to the person, that person would be potentially qualified, it's not that, they might even have therapy or pediatric experience, but that's why.
Have we had experience with less involved providers, I assume?
We always had Brenda Will, and then when she, through Health in Motion, and then she retired, and that's when they hired Brittany. And Aspires hadn't had anybody, so I just kept Eric in the loop that if you ever do, and so that's kind of why I made that recommendation.
Okay. So are you saying you are going to go back and ask them if they would?
I can if you want me to. I just wasn't gonna do it prior to. I didn't think that was right in the bidding process to try to get them to outbid when it hadn't been approved.
Right. And I don't think they're going to do anything for you once they read in the paper that this is approved.
Yeah. Like I said, I'll be honest, if it were hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's different. We're talking about grant funds that may or may not come in under that. The difference between $19,000 and $24,500, I just, so. And they both know, when I let them know, I said, if the board comes back and wants me to do that, that's your prerogative, but this is my recommendation. So.
Okay. So that's the recommendation. And any further questions or comments? And we have a motion and a second, correct? Then we'll go ahead with a roll call vote.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Deep,
I'd like to recuse myself.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes. And we'll go on to item G, consideration to approve the 2021-22 WIAA membership renewal.
I
move the board approve the 2021-2022 WIAA membership renewal as presented.
Second.
Any questions or comments? We went over this also at the cow meeting. And we will go ahead with the roll call.
Bardo,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes. And we'll go on to item H. Consideration to approve new course proposal, AHS Mathematics for trades.
I move the board approve the new course proposal, Mathematics for Trades, for the trades as presented.
Second. Oh, let Jill.
Okay,
When a teacher has to teach an overload, how many hours is that teaching versus not an overload?
An hour a day.
1 extra hour. And so how many hours a day do they typically get off if it's a normal day? I mean, not an overload.
2 hours. When I say hours, I mean class periods. So that's at the middle and high school levels. 6-12.
What'd you say, 6-12?
The elementary teacher.
What's that mean?
Grade 6.
Grade
Oh,
6,
okay,
12.
I see. Okay, so they get 1 hour a day off,
Yeah.
including lunch or not including lunch?
Lunch is separate.
okay. Any other questions or comments? Then we go ahead with the roll call.
Deep,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. We'll go on to item I, consideration to approve policy PO 5460, graduation requirement updates.
I move the board approve the policy PO 5460 graduation requirements update to include mathematics for the trades.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
So if I understand this correctly, algebra 2 or mathematics for the trades will be equivalent as it is inserted in there. So the 3 credits would be algebra, algebra 2 or mathematics, and the third one would be geometry. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes, and we will go on to report of district new hires.
Move the board approve the following new hires: Timothy Allison, high school ELA; Julia Schrader, STEAM; Ashley Martino, 2nd grade North; Bailey Pipenberg, 1st grade West; and Kristen Ziegler, 3rd grade North.
Second.
Okay, questions or comments? And a roll call.
Oh.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. And item K is a report of employee resignations or retirements.
I move the board accept the following resignations: Benny Olson, high school science teacher; Amy Hine, high school English teacher; and Alexis Mashi that just came into my basket. It was not on
Oh,
It wasn't there.
but it's on there now.
Yeah.
yes, we added that one today so that we could post in a timely manner as long as the agenda item was listed. So I apologize for that.
Okay.
I didn't see Amy's either.
Did we get a second?
Yes? I mean,
I didn't hear a second.
okay, second.
Okay, and then any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes, and we'll go on to item L, report of donations.
I move the board accept the following donations. Hang on here a second. $100 from Zalazowski Wood Products for Fill a Backpack, Fill a Need. $200 from Johnson Coil for Fill a Backpack, Fill a Need. Lions Club, $750, Fill a Backpack, Fill a Need. Cynthia Cools, $150, Neboken Lodge School Forest Project. Antigo Gridiron Club, $11,295 for the Schofield Stadium resurfacing project and the goalposts. Parsons of Antigo, $500 for the girls softball, and Northern Chill, $1,000 for Skills USA cornhole board construction donation for a total of $13,995.
Northern should also donated one pallet of bottled water for the high school graduation.
Oh, I was looking, it's easier for me to read the chart. Yeah, okay, and the water from Northern Chill, the pallet of water for the high school graduation.
What is a cornhole board construction?
Well, that's
They
that
made,
game where you throw the
the big
beanbags in the
corn.
hole, isn't it?
Cornhole.
But so what are the,
That's for the corn farmers. Mr. Potato.
Bean bags? That makes more sense.
They could be throwing potatoes.
It could be. That'd be a lot better.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second.
I cannot have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
And we'd just like to say thank you to all those who donated so generously. Any other questions or comments? Then all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the next item is to confirm the Tuesday, July 20th meeting. And part of that meeting will be the evaluation, correct? And so evaluations will be available July 1st, is that correct? Yeah. 1st to the 15th, so yeah, just get them filled out. Okay,
and no committee of the whole meeting in June?
July.
July.
Only one meeting, July 20th, correct.
Okay,
Get a break once in a while.
yeah, because we're past.
Only July.
I can't believe that it's going to be July.
I know.
Good, yeah,
Hey Tim, this would have been 6:45, other than those questions we had to answer at the beginning.
That was Tim's.
That was all the questions you asked.
6:45 was.
That was only 6 more minutes.
Tim, next time you estimate, you gotta consider that that's part of the meeting.
That is ready. So am I the winner?
No, I had 7.
Oh,
What did you have here, Tim?
I had 7 o'clock.
Guess what you have in bed?
The motion after.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, please do that.
I'll motion that we adjourn.
Okay.
You want me to wait?
No. Make a second there. Have a motion to adjourn, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that's all right?
Yeah, absolutely.